You are Locked On Giants Postcast, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On Giants Postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And today, the Giants top the A's and extras in the final ever Battle of the Bay. And this one was wild. Tons of high drama in this close game from start to finish, from the Giants inventing new ways to not score runs to Ryan Walker's wild ride in the 10th. All the while, Blake Snell was out there spinning another masterpiece on the mound, and we get back-to-back blasts in extra innings to send the Giants home, a 4-2 win over the A's. So much to get into today. We'll break it all down, but first, I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please hit that subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed. Also, make sure to check out the Locked On Giants Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. Ben Kaspick does a great job. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. In this one, this was just as frustrating as every other Giants game that we have watched recently. At the beginning of this game, I was becoming baffled by watching the Giants invent new ways to not score runs. Getting strike him out, throw him out situations, getting doubled up. The top of the fourth inning when Fitz was doubled up at first after that weird pop up down that was kind of in between third base. It was right around the third baseman, but in between third base, the pitcher, and the shortstop. And it kind of got lost in the sun. You could tell the shortstop and the third baseman both had no idea where the ball was. So JP Sears runs off the mound and makes an amazing grab almost all the way to third base from the mound. And he just had like a one hand out, like swiping at it, happy birthday kind of catch. And he turns around with his back to first base, turns and fires a strike and gets Tyler Fitzgerald. Doubles him up at first. That was crazy. Everything was not going the Giants' way. We can go through all those things in a little bit. But it all broke open for the Giants in the top of the seventh. After the A's took a 1-0 lead in the prior frame in the bottom of the sixth, in the top of the seventh, the Giants responded. Elliot Ramos just destroyed a ball all the way to deep center field. Flem said it was one of the longest home runs he's ever seen a Giant hit in the Oakland Coliseum. It bounced off the hitter's backdrop in center field, maybe even a little bit above that. He just destroyed this ball. His 18th home run of the season came on a changeup that was up and away, got full extension with the arms and showed off the power. 448 feet, 110.5 miles an hour off the bat. He carried the bat. He knew it right off the bat. Carried that bat by the barrel, like halfway to first, maybe more than halfway to first, emphatically chucked it back at the Giants dugout and started yelling back at his guys, just trying to breathe some life into this team who up to that point, it just felt like they were sleepwalking through this game. It tied the game at 1 apiece. And then in the bottom of the seventh, another huge moment. Blake Snell is up there. A's got 2 on with 1 out. And Snell was seemingly getting frustrated with the strike zone, throwing a lot of close pitches that were called strikes earlier in the game, but wasn't getting that same called strike at this point. He ended up walking a guy and loading the bases with just 1 out. Rogers gets up warming in the bullpen as quickly as he can, but the Giants let Snell try and work out of it with Schumann, the 9th hitter, at the dish, and the Giants go infield in, but they don't even need the infield for that one as Snell strikes out Schumann on a ball that bounced in the dirt and then hit him in the shin. Huge strikeout in a massive situation and a very, very, very tough at bat if you're Schumann. That's probably the worst way to strike out. Bases loaded, 1 out, gotta have it situation. You strike out on a pitch that bounces in the dirt and then hits you. It doesn't get much worse than that. Maybe the Rogers strikeout that hit the guy in the face earlier this season, that was pretty bad too. So, I'd take your pick. Getting drilled in the face on a strikeout or striking out in this type of a situation on a ball that hits you. I don't know which one's worse. Both are pretty damn bad if you're the opponent. Pretty great if you are Blake Snell or Rogers, I guess. So the next batter comes up and Snell gets a ground out after Cameron works a full count to end the inning. Snell was jacked, absolutely pumped up coming off the field, just screaming, fist pumping. And you know who else was screaming and fist pumping in a not good way was Mark Kotze, because he was very upset that in that Cameron at bat, he thought one of those called strikes should have been ball 4. He was letting the umpire hear it, and in the top of the 8th inning, after the first pitch of the inning, Mark Kotze is ejected, and the pitch wasn't particularly close, so I feel like he was probably just still upset about Daz Cameron not getting that called ball 4 in that last at bat prior to the inning. The walk would have scored a run for the A's there, so I get why he was upset. But he comes out and gets tossed from the game. The Giants ended up not being able to do anything in that inning, but they did chase Sears finally, who pitched almost 8 complete innings in this game. If it wasn't for a Grant McCray double off the wall, which, by the way, I'm low-key loving Grant McCray. I think this guy can fit in nicely into the Giants outfield for next season. And all it means now is that the Giants have a good problem of being able to move on from these older players that they have, but they just have so much youth. You got to pick between Matos and McCray. I'm assuming both of them are going to be on this roster next season, but who's the everyday guy right now? I think the nod goes to Grant McCray with his spectacular defense that he plays, especially if he keeps ripping doubles like this and keeps showing off the power. He has a pretty sweet swing, pretty repeatable swing, and the speed obviously gives the Giants something that they don't have, which is a bona fide base stealer, and they need that. I mean, they need to be able to score runs in play small ball and things like that, as we'll get to the failed small ball attempt in a minute by Mike Yastrzemski. My God, that was a terrible moment from this game. But we got to get to the good stuff. In extra innings, top 10, Jerar Encarnacion swinging on the first pitch of the inning and absolutely smashes a 2-run bomb to center field, gives the Giants a 3-1 lead. Remember, he gets a 2-run bomb for that leadoff home run because of that dumb Manfred man that starts the inning on second base. It was a high challenge fastball, and he beat Jimenez on that one big time. Encarnacion just destroyed that one, and dancing in the dugout with Ramos and McCray afterwards. You saw him, with his little shuffle step getting around third base. He was feeling himself out there for sure. And the big guy should be. I mean, that was a huge moment in a game that really felt like, you could tell both teams wanted this one. And the Giants, I guess you could still say, Flem said it at the end of the game, that they're hanging on for their playoff lives. I think this team is dead in the water at this point. I think it is way too late in the season to start clawing back. We've seen crazier things happen in baseball, but I don't think that this is going to work out for the Giants this year. I don't think the playoffs are in their future at this point. They've just fallen behind too far. And you've had too many opportunities to dig yourself out of these holes, and you keep just digging deeper. So, you do have the White Sox next at a 3-game series. After that, if you're looking for, winnable series for the Giants going forward, you got a pretty winnable series against the Marlins coming up too. Other than that, it's going to be pretty tough sledding for the Giants for the entire month of September. So we'll see how the rest of August goes. But the Giants need to get some wins now before they're a lot harder to come by next month. So they got one today. I should also say, right after Encarnacion smashed that one out of here, Michael Conforto comes up and gives the Giants an insurance run with a solo shot of his own. Giants go back-to-back bombs, doing their best Bash Bros impersonation in the final Giants game at the Oakland Coliseum. I'm all for that. It's the 13th home run of the season for Michael Conforto, 4-1 lead for the Giants. It's nice if Conforto heats up at the end of the season. He's been playing pretty well lately. It just leaves so much to be desired. And I was really excited about the addition of Conforto to this team at the beginning of the season, the way that he came out on a tear. I was super impressed with him and thought that he was going to add a whole new dimension to this team. If he had been able to hit 20 to 25 bombs and stay healthy and go through various, he's a streaky guy. He was going to go through his peaks and his valleys, his hot streaks and his slumps, but 13 home runs for a guy like Michael Conforto is just not enough. For what this guy is supposed to provide, to be a big bat in the middle of the order, 13 home runs is just not going to cut it. And I know he's been hurt for a lot of the season, and he's been playing really great lately, and it was a big part of this Giants win today. I'm excited for the days when this Michael Conforto experiment is no longer something the Giants have to deal with. And it's a bummer to say that, because dude's a former All-Star and all that. You see the flashes that he has, like with what he did today. But I think the Giants have a great situation for the outfield of the future with Jung-Hoo Lee. And Wow, Grant McCray, geez, my brain, I'm sorry, and Elliot Ramos. I think those three are the outfield of the future for the San Francisco Giants, and I think Matos mixes in there a little bit as well. We'll see what happens next season, but I don't think next year's outfield includes Michael Conforto, and I don't think it really includes Mike Yastrzemski either. And both, had moments in today's game. One a lot better than the other. We'll get to the Yaz one in the next segment. But to wrap up this game and how it went, bottom 10, Ryan Walker doing his best Camilo Doval impersonation. Schumann singles on a ball that was glanced off the mound and changed direction just ever so slightly to throw off Wisely, who was playing second base. Ryan Walker's body also kind of like set a screen in front of Wisely, like couldn't see the ball until it got by him. And at that point, it was a little too late for him to shift his weight back the other direction and get in front of that ball. It was ruled a single, not an error, even though I think that Wisely could have made that play. Not saying he should have made that play, but he definitely could have made it. Scores that dumb Manfred man from second base, and Giants still had a lead, though, 4-2. Ryan Walker then issues a 4-pitch walk to the next batter. Batter after that one singles, and now the bases are loaded with the tying run in scoring position and winning run on first with nobody out, and nobody was in the Giants bullpen warming up yet. And that baffles me because Ryan Walker had pitched the bottom of the ninth, or the top of the ninth, excuse me, and he came out, or bottom of the ninth, he came out and pitched the bottom of the 10th, and the Giants didn't even get an insurance, like backup. No Sean Jelly warming up going into it. No, we already saw Tyler Rogers pitch earlier in this game. So, I mean, you still had Taylor Rogers available. None of these guys were up in the pen until the bases were loaded. And all of a sudden you see Taylor Rogers run out there and he starts warming up without a hat. This dude's out there just throwing pitches. It was a weird visual. One of the Giants coaches ran over and handed him his hat. He put it on, but that's the situation that they let themselves get into. And I, for the life of me, do not understand why Bob Melvin did not have somebody warming up before then. Like, why did we need to see the winning run get on base before you started warming somebody? Yep, it made zero sense. So both of them rushed to get ready, but the Giants ended up not needing it. Ryan Walker, after that, rebounds and goes strikeout, ends up striking out the side after loading the bases. If that's not like Camilo Doval, if you want to go even further back, Brian Wilson-esque, I don't know what is, man. But Ryan Walker gets it done, gets the win. And yeah, I mean, Giants win this one 4-2 in the very last installation, the final ever matchup between the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland Athletics. We got to take a quick break, but on the other side, I want to go over some of the things that happened earlier in this game that were just atrocious, absolutely atrocious. The Giants are just a laughable team right now. It shocks me that they even won this game against the A's. I thought they were going to get swept. The way this one was going, they're making JP Sears, who's having a nice season, but making this guy look like another Cy Young Award winner or candidate, as they tend to do. And we'll get into that too a little bit later on in the show. Thanks for tuning in on the Locked On Giants postcast. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we gotta talk about Mike Yastrzemski's no good, very bad bunt on the other side of Locked On Giants postcast. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 5 million members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections for your chance to win 100 times your money. With the finals over, hoops action doesn't stop on PrizePicks. Women's basketball is still heating up with stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese looking to make big names for themselves alongside greats like Brianna Stewart and Aja Wilson. You could win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. If you're looking for promotions, PrizePicks has got you covered every week, from lowering select player stat projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup hit, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. It's PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Welcome back to the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and I'm just looking through the chat, and I mean, yeah, Charles, man, the Braves winning too doesn't help the Giants. I mean, if we're still going back and forth on whether or not the Giants are going to be considered a playoff contender for this last month of the season, I guess you can keep track of that. I mean, we obviously will, but as I've been saying, I really don't envision this team really contending at all down the stretch. Their schedule gets a lot tougher, and they've shown absolutely no fight, no, late gotta have it magic as of recently until, I mean, I guess today they did win in extras, but I'm very down on this team going forward. You barely eked out a split series against the Oakland Athletics, who are, I mean, a AAA team that wears a Major League Baseball uniform, aside from, Brett Rooker and a few others. But the Giants should absolutely be winning these games. It should not have to be a 4-2 win in extras that you had to come from behind to just win one against the A's in this series. I know it's only a 2-game set, but I mean, you shouldn't be struggling this hard for runs. The Giants couldn't score. I mean, they got shut out yesterday. They got shut out for half of this one. And this team is bad at the dish right now. And that was on display very clearly in this one early in this one, in the top of the fifth inning. Chapman and Schmidt both single. It puts runners on first and third with one out, and up comes Mike Yastrzemski, who tries to lay down a bunt, but instead pops out to the catcher in foul ground. And I mean, this was so terrible visually to watch this happen, because it just felt like the wrong play. It looked really bad. Mike Yastrzemski just looked, so upset with himself walking back to that dugout. And I get what they were trying to do here. I mean, the Giants have struck out in these situations so often that Baumel is, I'm assuming, just trying to avoid unproductive outs, because even if you lay that bunt down and they doesn't get the run home, maybe they hold that runner at third. I mean, maybe they load the bases and move that runner from first and over to second base and get another runner in scoring position. Maybe it works out and Yaz lays down a nice bunt like Grant McCray did the other day, earlier this week, for his first MLB hit and RBI. But when this doesn't work, it looks absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. I did not like the decision to do this. I understand the thinking behind it, but I completely disagree with it. And I mean, the reason why I disagree with it, I mean, you should be able to do some of these things sometimes, but you also, you shouldn't have to do these things. You shouldn't be so bad at being able to slap a single in a situational hitting at bat or a ground ball to the right side of the infield. If you can't do those things, I mean, maybe you should work on them. I'm sure they practice these situational at bats, but you got to get better at it. Bunting should not be your only recourse in these moments. And Mike Yastrzemski, it was a terrible attempt. There's also not a lot of good players at bunting in baseball in general anymore, but especially on this Giants team. You have to have guys that can do the little things if you want to be able to kind of scratch and claw and punch above your weight, which the Giants, I mean, they played down to their competition. This roster is better than this record. Like, on paper, this roster looks a lot better than the record indicates that this team is. And it's in large part because they can't do these little things. And it's the constant failures of trying to bunt, of getting in a strike them out, throw them out, double play to end the inning, like they did in the top of the sixth. And I mean, I like the aggressiveness. I like them trying to do these small ball things, but you have to execute. You have to execute. The top of the play in the top of the fourth where Fitz got doubled up at first, that was, I'm not going to say that that's bad situational anything or bad base running at all. He didn't know what to do. If that ball dropped that Sears ended up catching, he would have had to get down the line and get into second base before that force out came in there, before the ball came in there for the force out. I mean, he had to get off the base. It looked like he was going to fall. I probably would have made the same decision too, because I did not think the A's were going to catch that weird pop-up. It's just a tough break in that one. But it's another situation where the Giants had one of two routes to take, and shockingly, they took the wrong one. And that has really kind of epitomized this whole Giants season. Every time that there's a fork in the road, the Giants end up going down into like the deep dark forest that's full of all the bad stuff, and it's terrible. And this Giants team, I know they won today, they eked out this win, but it's very uninspiring. The ending was pretty crazy. The 10th inning was pretty wild. That was fun. The back-to-back jacks, Ryan Walker ended up striking out the side after loading the bases. Pretty wild. This team is just so frustrating to watch, man. Like, unbelievably frustrating that even in a game like that they won like this, I still just want to hit my head against a wall because this team just drives me insane. It drives me bonkers. Absolutely insane. We got to take a quick break here on the Locked On Giants postcast. We'll get into more. I want to talk more about Ryan Walker and how great he has been this season, because I know that he was up and down tonight. He also was asked to do a lot with the 2 innings of work at the end of the game. So I want to give him some credit. We got to look into what he's been doing all season long. You guys already know that Ryan Walker is a stud. But let's get into that. Let's celebrate Ryan Walker a little bit today on the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll be right back. And today's show is also sponsored by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. This is an amazing deal. NFL Sunday Ticket is not cheap, so jump on this while you can. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game with this plan. I have this plan. It is amazing. You guys should absolutely jump on it. There is no better way to watch your football. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit fanduel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and today the Giants win 4-2 over the Oakland Athletics out in the very last game that the San Francisco Giants will ever play at the Oakland Coliseum, barring some crazy thing, which could still happen. I mean, the A's, we know how much of a dumpster fire that front office is, and John Fisher and all those dudes. I mean, Dave Cavill, every single one of those guys is a scumbag in a suit, and I hope that this deal falls through for them. I really do. I really hope that, I mean, there's a lot of turmoil about whether or not the A's will actually get the land deal in Vegas and all these things, and that all these hurdles that they got to clear. They still don't have an actual stadium yet. There is a casino on the land where they're supposed to build that stadium still. So they have a lot of work to do to get that to happen. So I really still do have a little bit of hope that one day this will return, that this won't be the final nail in the coffin of what's been a really fun rivalry. I mean, my entire life, I have enjoyed the Giants-A's kind of like playful-ish rivalry. You know, it's not like a Giants-Dodgers where the two teams like actually like dislike each other. I mean, it's like a fun rivalry, like a lighthearted one. Like the A's just feel like the Giants, you know, to be frank, their little brother across the bay, and just kind of like the Sacramento Kings feel like the Warriors' little brother up the 80. I mean, that's just the vibe of it, and it's fun watching them go back and forth. For a while, the A's were, you know, beating up on the Giants. I mean, remember the World Series? I was not alive for that, so I don't remember, but I know that a lot of you were. So this series, it has a lot of meaning here in the Bay Area, and it's sad that it's over. It makes me really bummed out, and it's just not great. This is being taken away. Baseball in the Bay is being taken away from us. I think that's bad for everybody. I think it's bad for the Giants as well, because you need more baseball. Like more baseball is better for the sport itself. And taking away a whole team from a whole geographical area takes away interest in baseball from a whole geographical area, or at least lessens it. There's still going to be people over in the East Bay that care about baseball, obviously. But there's also, like, I know a lot of A's fans who have basically said, I'm just done watching baseball now. I'm just not going to do it anymore because it makes me sad that my team has abandoned me like this. And that I get it. I get it. It makes me sad, and it's a bummer. But today, the Giants, they topped the A's in the final ever matchup between the two, 4-2. And Ryan Walker made this one really interesting. I mean, he loaded the bases in that ninth inning, gave up a run, although he, shouldn't have in like a normal baseball inning, wouldn't have surrendered a run. But, we get that Manfred man that is just the worst thing in baseball. And so that run counted against him, which is a bummer because he pitched well enough to not have to have an earned run charged to him, but he got one nonetheless. And he did load the bases, as I said, but he got out of it. And I mean, he was impressive with those last three at-bats. That last at-bat, a 1-2-3 strikeout in it, or 1-2-3 strikes, all no balls. It was great. He went sinker, and then hit him with a slider. And that slider was devastating to Langoliers to end this game. Ryan Walker, when he is on, man. That slider is absolutely devastating. And he has been so solid at limiting hard hit balls, at avoiding barrels, at not walking guys. His walk rate is down around 5%, 5.8%, and his strikeout rate 30.6%. That's like all-star level stuff. He has a 30% whiff rate. His average exit velocity is only 86.3 miles an hour. It's in the top 8% of all pitchers in Major League Baseball. This guy is dominant, absolutely dominant for the Giants right now. His ERA this season is down around 2. I mean, he has been lights out for the Giants late in games, and he did it. 5 strikeouts in 2 innings in this one. Dominant, absolute, utter force at the back end of this bullpen for the Giants at this point. And they've made the right decision, moving on from Camilo Doval and letting Ryan Walker take the reins. It ends up looking like a pretty good decision at a point like this. And yes, I know he had an up and down outing today, but at the end of the day, he did his job, got the outs he needed to get. And he's got that overpowering, dominant closer stuff that you look for in a guy like Ryan Walker or, like Camilo Doval had. He's not pumping, 102 miles an hour or throwing cutters that are, shattering bats all over the place, but it obviously plays. The stuff works at the end of games. I really like Ryan Walker in this spot. That's also Ryan Walker's 8th win of the season. He's 8-3 this year, which is a lot of wins for a reliever. We didn't really talk about Blake Snell too much today, and I did him a disservice because dude spun another masterpiece. He had 10 strikeouts, only walked 2, gave up 1 run, and scattered 6 hits over 7 innings of work. Getting through that 7th inning was really tough. We talked about that in detail. But Blake Snell, when he had to have it today, came up with huge strikeouts in huge moments, and he has continued to roll the way that we expected him to do this in the second half of the season, ever since he came back from that injury, that second injury that he had this year, the second stint on the IL. We all know Blake Snell is a second half guy, but man, is it impressive to watch. Like, you can hear that all you want, but seeing this guy every time he takes the mound do something like this is bonkers. And he's been pitching like deep into games, deeper for the Giants than he has for any other team. The amount of times that this guy has been able to go 7+ innings is impressive for Blake Snell, for a guy like Snell who frequently does not pitch past the 5th or 6th inning. This guy's, doing so much for the Giants as far as pitching deeper into games and giving this bullpen some breaks. The Giants only had to throw 2 relievers today in an extra innings game because Blake Snell went 7. That's a big plus for this team. And especially in the dog days of summer, you need as much rest as you can get at this point in the season for this bullpen has been used and abused all season long. They have not been ridden as hard as they were earlier this season when they were making, bullpen games out of every 3 starts, but they managed to get through that. They are where they are now. And they sit at 500 with the win today. They climb back up there, 63-63 on the season. With the loss, the A's are 53-71. Not a great season for the A's. The Giants do pick up the win in this one, as I said, 4-2. And it was also, we didn't really talk about it very much this weekend, but it was also Players Weekend through Friday through today. The Giants were obviously off Friday, but it was fun, man. I enjoy Players Weekend, the cool bats, the cool cleats, the funky numbers on the hats. I'm glad they didn't do the weird jerseys again. They could have done the nicknames on the back. The nickname thing was fun when they did that a couple years ago. It's been a while since we had a Players Weekend, 3 or 4 years. But the last time that they did this, they had you remember like Corey Seager wrote like Kyle's brother on the back of his jersey and things like that. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen like the pencil bats that have been rolling around. We've seen some pretty cool ones in this series as well from both the Giants and the A's. I like the fun bats. I mean, MLB loosened up rules on the cleats and stuff like that. So you see all these like cool cleats, like Jazz Chisholm always has something cool on. Players all around the league being able to express themselves a little more. I think that's a good thing. I think that draws in a lot of baseball fans, a lot of younger fans to the game, and I think that's needed. And the cool bats, man, I mean, who doesn't like that? Like, you want to smash a home run with a number 2 pencil looking bat? That sounds, I mean, that's just fun, man. It gets a little less fun when you have all these fun bats like the Giants had and you can't use them to hit a ball. So that was frustrating, made me not want to talk about it yesterday. So I kind of skipped over it because, you know, I wasn't really wanting to talk too much about the fun bats the Giants were using to swing through all those pitches yesterday. That was frustrating. I also told you guys yesterday on the show that today is in fact Triple E's birthday, and last night was a fun night and a late night, and so I feel like I dragged a little bit today. I am sorry. I'm playing a little bit hurt, but we got through it, man. We got through the show. The Giants got through this series, and we both are limping along right now. So me and the Giants in lockstep with making it through the day today. So thanks for tuning in. It's always fun doing these shows. It's always fun having you guys tune in and have the discussion back and forth. And thanks for tuning in. I think that this game was a good win for the Giants. I don't think it changes their future, their fortune going into the playoffs at all. I still think this team has just too tall of a mountain to climb. You got to hope for someone to collapse. It's not just about you winning games anymore if you're the Giants. It's about other teams losing as well. And other teams, Braves won today, as I said earlier. So other teams are going to keep on winning. I mean, you got the Padres and the Diamondbacks ahead of them as well. A bunch of other teams ahead of the Giants in this NL wildcard race at this current moment in time. So Giants looking up at a lot of other teams between them and that last wildcard spot. I don't think it's going to happen. And that's just how this season's going to end. And I'm already looking forward to next year. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this outfield. I'm very interested in that. I'm curious to see how a lot of these young pitchers finish out the season. So there's still plenty of meat on the bone for this Giants season as far as what to watch for, reasons to keep locked in on your San Francisco Giants, and stay locked in on the Locked On Giants postcast, of course. So with that, that's all the time we got for you guys today. Thanks for tuning in to the Locked On Giants postcast. I am your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and we will see you next time tomorrow when the Giants take on the White Sox. First pitch, 6:45. That's a very winnable series. It will not shock if the Giants find a way to lose one of those games. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.